All right, guys, I need you to look on your table. Every table has a Ziploc bag. Inside of that Ziploc bag, you have cards. Those cards will fit into one of two categories. They are either biotic, which means what? Living. Or they are abiotic, which means? Non-living. All right. I'm going to give you about 3 minutes. At your table, I need you to sort those cards into the appropriate group. Everybody understand? Yes. All right, your 3 minutes starts now. Let's get it done. Yes, sir. We'll talk about that later, okay? So 3 minutes on the clock. With your table, sort your cards. If you're by yourself, join a table momentarily. Good spot, Jason. Yes, ma'am.
Can I go over there with Jason?
That's okay. Just leave it in there. Do your best with what you have. Now, Tovar, when you're done, you're going to go back. Okay. We're at 2.5. What do you guys have?
Huh?
So you're just getting them all laid out where you can see them? You got about 2 minutes. Very good job.
The flowers are living right.
You've got 1.5 minutes.
Most biotic means living, right?
Biotic means living.
Sunlight. They're not dead.
They were never alive.
That's what I'm saying.
You're flipping me out.
Abiotic is something that was never alive. Like a rock. You can't say a rock is dead because it was never alive to begin with, right?
The thing was passion.
So it's abiotic. In biology, that letter A, when you put it in front of stuff, often means not. So the letter A in front of something can mean the opposite of that word.
Antibiotic. Wait, actually,
45 seconds. Get them sorted to the best of your ability. "30 seconds.
alright. We're good, man.
15. In your journals, on the back of the pocket we made for our lab safety questions, in your journal on the back of that page, I need you to go and make a T-chart. Your T-chart is going to be labeled biotic and abiotic. You're going to list about 5 examples under each category. Raise your hand without blurting. Who can tell me 5 biotic things? Isis.
Flowers, mushrooms, worms, mice, and rabbits.
Flowers, mushrooms, worms, mice, and rabbits. You can put anything you want on your biotic. It doesn't have to match hers. But you need to list 5 living things. What about abiotic? Can I get a volunteer for that? Yes, sir. Storm, soil, rocks. Say it again.
I said trees.
Are trees biotic or abiotic?
Biotic.
Trees are alive, right? So I need 2 more abiotics. What could we use? Trash. What else? Temperature. Now, let's talk about trash for a minute. A piece of plastic trash would be abiotic, right? But what if I threw away food scraps? They're dead, but were they once alive? So that's still considered biotic, okay? So trash can be a little iffy. Yes, sir. That's biotic. Mm-hmm. Manure and waste is biotic. You've got about 30 seconds. Jot something down. It doesn't have to be pretty. It doesn't have to be perfect. You're in your journal behind your pocket. We made for our lab safety questions. As you write, I'm going to come by and give you your Cornell note paper for today. You are welcome to pick up where you left off on our C-note paper from yesterday. I'm giving you a new sheet simply because you're going to need it because of the amount of notes that we're going to take. Okay? So pick up where you left off. I'm giving you a new sheet just because you're probably going to need extra paper. Once you get your T-chart done, you can put your cards back in their box. Anytime during notes today, if you need extra paper, you can come up. They're in the trays where you turn in your work. You don't have to ask. Just don't be a distraction. Go ahead, get your cards back in your bag. Take out your C-notes. Finish your journal. You've got like 10 seconds and I'm moving on. 9, 8, 7, put your cards up. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 1/2, 1 1/4, 1 1/8. We should be on 1. On your Cornell note paper, your EQ is, if you're continuing your paper from yesterday, simply write the EQ and put a really thick chunk box around it so you can see that it's the same topic, but it's a new EQ. All right? If you're starting on the fresh page, you're just going to write it where the EQ goes. So our EQ says, summarize a food web from producer to tertiary consumer, including justification for each organism's placement in the food web in order excuse me, to create an ecological pyramid poster. Do you have to write all that? Remember, you can summarize everything in C-notes. If I were taking my C-notes, I might put food web, producer to tertiary consumer, justification, placement, create ecological pyramid poster. So as you can see, there's a lot of words here we can cut out to shorten and summarize the CQ even more. So get this down on your C note paper. This is what we're going to be working towards for about the next week and a half. You should be close to getting this down. You should have abbreviated and truncated as much as you can. I'm sorry, guys. I'm choking all of a sudden. Here's your objective. Examine the flow of energy. Examine the flow of energy through an ecosystem. Here, if I were doing my notes, I just might write flow of energy as my objective. Yes, ma'am. They're your notes, so what you choose to put as your objective, as long as it makes sense and is relevant, that's okay. Okay? Yes, sir. Here is our first heading. It's going to be Key Concept 1. Ecology is the study of relationships and organisms in an environment. Ecologists study specifically the different levels of organization. If I were taking my Cornell notes here, I would put ecology, study, relationships, organisms, and environment. You could make a lot of abbreviations here. You could abbreviate organisms, you could abbreviate environment, you could abbreviate relationships. Your heading is Key Concept 1. And then this, if I were doing my notes, I would only have written down what's highlighted. I pulled it out of the wall. There we go. Twist this. You can see behind me. Sorry, I'm trying to find the best position to be in for this to record right, so bear with me. So the next heading on your C notes should be levels of organization. Everything in nature is organized. In 8th grade, I know you guys learned about atoms. Who can remember what are the parts of an atom? Nucleus. What else? Protons. Neutrons, electrons. What do we call the area around the nucleus? Electron cloud. Very good, Cameron Henry. So just like the smallest, tiniest atom, it's organized. those levels of organization go all the way up to the universe. So if I were to start at the smallest part, first level of organization. Now, it gets tricky. You actually can break an atom down into smaller parts. But for our sake and purposes, we're going to say atom is the smallest level. Yes, sir?
Do you wish us to write that on the board?
Yes, sir. You need to know your levels. So smallest is atom. Atoms come together. Now, an atom is just an element, right? Like it's on the periodic table. So if I have two elements, I have two atoms. Those two atoms can come together in different ratios and make what's called a molecule. H2O, water, right? That's a molecule. So it's different atoms. It's two hydrogen atoms, one oxygen atom that have bonded together to make water. Molecules then interact and make something called an organelle. Who can remember from 7th grade? What is an organelle? Mr. Armston, I think you built a model of a cell in the classroom, right? He had the cell city. Nobody recalling it? All right. Organelles are like the tiny little organs inside of a cell. You know how human bodies have organs that do different jobs?
Yeah.
Cells have organelles that do different jobs. Okay? So just like bodies have organs, cells have organelles. So it's atom, molecule, organelle. All of those organelles come together and work to make what's called a cell. All living things are made of cells. If it's alive, it has some kind of cell. What's made of atoms? Everything. When I used to teach 8th grade, the joke I would always say is, never trust an atom. They make up everything. Ha ha. So dirt. So rocks. So my shirt. So my hair. So your dog. So your cat. So your brother. So your sister. Everything is made of atoms. Only living things are then made of cells. So atoms are in cells. Does that not blow your mind? There's a poster in the hallway that says, there are more atoms in one grain of sand than there are grains of sand on the planet. Think about that for a minute. There are more atoms in one grain of sand than there are grains of sand on the entire planet. So cells and living things, they're actually made of atoms. Cells come together and make tissues. So like skin tissue or liver tissue or whatever.
Yeah.
Tissues come together to make an organ. An organ would be like your stomach, your liver, your kidneys. Organs come together to make organ systems. That would be like your digestive system or your nervous system. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Organ systems come together to make you. Organ systems make an organism. A group of like organisms in an area is called a population. Many populations together in an area is called a community. Communities together with their environment is called an ecosystem. If I wanted to go bigger, I could say that there are biomes. Above biomes, there is the biosphere, which is Earth and its atmosphere. I can keep going. Outside the biosphere is the solar system. Outside the solar system is the galaxy. Milky Way, right? Outside the galaxy is the universe. So, for a very long time, we have all been told and have believed that the universe is as big as it gets. There is no proof that that is wrong, okay? However, there are some people that think maybe there's something called the multiverse. Maybe there are other universes out there. But how do we can't get to the edge of ours. How in the world will we get to another one? Okay? Yes, sir.
I remember hearing that some scientists think that the universe is actually growing.
Yes, the universe, we know the universe, it's expanding at the speed of light.
And we don't discover all of it, but we discover some of it.
Yeah, there's so much out there that we don't know. It's hard to even wrap your head around. So, as you can see, nature, the world, you, me, we're organized. Computer's being a jerk. Oh, here we go. All right, so now we're going to talk specifically about the levels of organization that are important when you study ecology. So, you're heading here, you're still under levels of organization. The first thing we're going to talk about is an organism. If you look at this picture, an organism is an individual animal. I would be an organism. You would be an organism, a bug, a bird, a rat, a ferret would be an organism. So it is one thing. Okay? In my notes, I would write, an organism is an individual living thing. This is Miss Stolle. It's okay. Uh-huh. Questions on each page. Summary is only for that set of notes. So there's only one summary. You know, that's completely your call. I usually have my kids do it on the last page, but that can vary from teacher to teacher. Yes, ma'am. Basically, the questions should correspond to the chunk. So if they've chunked that note, or there's like a like heading for that set, that's one chunk. There should be a question for that chunk. Yep, that's how it works. Yes, ma'am. All right. Organisms come together, and they make what's called a population. In my Cornell notes, I would say that a population is a group of the same species living in an area. Population, ladies. It's the group of the same species living in an area. So, one alligator is an organism. A family of alligators is a population.
So me and my family were a population.
Sure. Us in this classroom, we're a population. A community is a group of different species that live together in an area. So in this picture, the community would be the alligators with the hawk, with the fish, with the turtle, with the crane, even with the people. That's a community. Us in this classroom, if we're honest, it's me and you and the roaches and the rats and the ferret. All right? We are all, yes, there are rats and roaches. We are all coexisting as a community in this building, this school building. Last year we had bats, right?
Yeah, we did.
Okay.
They still in there?
No, they're gone.
When I get them at?
Last year. They treated and did all kinds of crazy stuff. So a community is a group of different species that live together in one area. Remember to abbreviate and summarize as much as you can. I don't want you writing word for word. An ecosystem, then. An ecosystem is every living thing here plus the environment. So the technical definition is all of the organisms as well as the climate, the soil, the water, the rocks, and other non-living things in the area. If I were doing my Cornell notes, I may say living and non-living things in an area. You could really shorten that, right? So an ecosystem is the living things and their environment. What? Ecosystem is the living things and their environment. Living things and their environment. Now let's talk about a biome. A biome is like a specific region. For example, I'm from East Texas. They call that the piney woods. All right? The piney woods is a biome. The area there is similar. Grasslands would be a biome. Tundra would be a biome. A biome is a major regional or global community of organisms characterized by climate conditions and plant communities. If I were doing my C notes, I would say community of organisms, climate, plant communities. I would really truncate it. I would say community of organisms, their climate, and the plants. Something along those lines. Remember, if you say a word in notes more than once, it's really, really smart to find some sort of personal abbreviation for that word so you don't have to keep writing it over and over again. So, our levels of organization here, from smallest to largest, were organism, population, community, ecosystem, biome. And as we talked earlier, I could continue going all the way up to universe, and depending on who you talk to, even multiverse. Now, remember when we played the Oh Dear game? You guys remember that? Right?
That game was fun.
So, in the Oh Dear game, only certain deer survived depending on how many resources we had, right? Depending on the water, the food, or the shelter. Those things are called limiting factors. So a new heading on your C notes needs to be limiting factors. Limiting factors are anything that affect an organism's ability to survive in its environment. That changes or alters how that population can grow. If you remember, our first cycle of the Oh Dear game, we had a whole lot of deer and very little resources. So what happened to the deer? They died. Why'd they die? They couldn't get what they needed to survive, right? They couldn't get their water, their shelter, and their food. So then they died, and they recycled in the next round as a resource. Okay? If I were doing notes here, I would just say limiting factor, affects survival, and population growth. And you could put the example beside it, oh dear. Limiting factor, organism survival, and population growth. And you can put example, the oh dear game. Now, later on in the year, they're updating my laptop, and I'm actually getting a grown-up person laptop. When that happens, I'm able to highlight from my iPad to my laptop. However, this one won't let me do that. So once I can do that, this process will go a whole lot easier, okay? Why this does that sometimes. All right, so new heading now. This heading is competition. What did the deer have to do when I said go in order to get the resources that they needed?
He has to try to find his people.
So did he do that real fast or real slow?
Real fast.
Real fast. If he wanted to survive, he had to do it real fast. And I heard people saying, Miss, he grabbed my water, or Miss, she took my shelter. Guess what, guys?
You're dead.
Well, yeah, you're dead, and that was competition, okay? In an ecosystem, competition is when members of a species compete for resources. So competition, I would just put compete for resources. It's that simple. The more deer there are, the more competition there is. The less deer there are, the less competition there is. We're still talking about competition. There are several things that can happen because of it. Competition can lead to a decrease in population size. If you have a large population and few resources, and then there's competition, guys, the weak ones or the slow ones will what?
Die.
They're going to die, okay? And the strong ones and the fast ones will survive, which means that population size has decreased. So competition can, I would write in my notes, lead to decreased population size. So smaller population. However you want to write that to make it real short and sweet. Give you a few more seconds. I'm going to move on. If you need more paper, you don't have to ask. Just get up and get it. It's in the tray in the bottom of where we turn in our work. New heading. This is a lot of words. And I've often heard people say that first year biology has more new vocabulary than first year Spanish. Guys, you're basically learning a new language. It's the language of biology. There's just going to be a lot of words. There's no way around it. And one of those new words is carrying capacity. Carrying capacity is the maximum number of individuals that environment can support. So carrying capacity is a heading. On your notes, max number environment can support. You guys have worked really, really hard for me now for about 20 minutes. So I want to do what's called a brain break. When you're done writing over carrying capacity, lay your pencil down so I can see you're done. Take the hand of one of your elbow partners, hand in hand, like so. 1, 2, 3, 4. I declare a thumb war. Take a second. Thumb wars for about 30 seconds. Elbow partner thumb wars. Back to me in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. In your notes, under carrying capacity, I want you to get this graph. You need to know that this, when you have a shape of a population that comes into an area, first, that population is going to increase exponentially. But then slowly they're going to get to the point that there's so many living things, there aren't enough resources. So they're going to eventually level off, and then there's going to be a point where they won't go any further. The point where they won't go any further is the carrying capacity. So the carrying capacity is the point at which the population cannot grow anymore because there's just not enough resources to support them. It's not important that your graph is perfect. You just need to get that general shape. And you need to label K as the carrying capacity. Write a note and I'll sign it, Raylan. And bring me your bathroom passes.
Is that an I or T?
Time. It's a T for time. Jose. So key concept 2. Key concept 2. We kind of talked about this with our bell ringer today, our card sort. Every ecosystem includes both living and non-living factors. You could truncate that and say biotic and abiotic, right? Key concept 2, biotic and abiotic. Siéntate, por favor. So key concept 2 is biotic and abiotic. Biotic and abiotic, that's it. You don't have to write this down. We already did this in our journal. With our T-chart. These are some examples of biotic factors. Biotic is just what? They're alive, right? So, in your notes, I would simply put biotic equals alive. Abiotic is things that are not what?
Living.
They're not alive. And they never were alive. Okay? So you can't say, oh, it's dead. That's abiotic. No, it was alive at one time. That's not how that works. So abiotic is not living. I would just put abiotic equals not living. You don't have to write down the examples. You already got some in your journal. Guess what? Key concept number 3. Remember we played our bead game yesterday. You guys remember that? Or we passed the rocks from trophic level to trophic level. I was the sun. What did I give you?
Rocks.
I gave you rocks which represented energy. Your key concept 3 is ecosystems require energy. Key concept 3, ecosystems require energy. Remember, if you need to see notes at any time, just come get them from the tray. Just don't be a distraction. Ecosystems require energy. Ecosystems require energy. You're under that key concept 3 heading. We're going to talk about producers. All right? You need to know that producers get energy from non-living resources. So in your notes, you need to say producers energy from non-living. Producers energy from non-living. Next to that, you need to put AKA. AKA stands for also known as. Producers are also called autotrophs. Autotroph means makes its own food. So producers get resources from non-living. What non-living thing gives producers their energy? What was I yesterday? The sun, right? Autotrophs make their own food. So those are 2 other vocabulary terms you have to know. Producers and autotrophs.
I think we already got this.
We do. This is the second time we've looked at it. We're only going to do about 2 more slides, and then I'm going to assign you guys some homework. Oh, my goodness. Guess what? You have a solid week to do it, so chill.
A week.
A week from this Friday to next Friday.
Is it a project?
No. Yes, sir. Okay. So, producers give energy to consumers. So in your notes, producers give energy. I would put an equal sign and write consumers. Producers give energy to consumers. Consumers have to eat them to get that energy, right? Do one more slide and then we'll stop, so y'all hang in with me. Producers give energy to consumers. You got another name for consumers, so you can write consumers, aka heterotrophs. In biology, this prefix hetero means different. Trophs is energy, so energy different. They get their energy from something else.
What is it called, Miss?
Heterotroph. So producers are autotrophs, consumers are heterotrophs.
So then what's that other one?
You're talking about trophic levels? Or you're talking about tertiary? Tertiary just means 3. So a tertiary consumer is the third consumer. A secondary consumer is the second. And a primary consumer is the first. Okay? Here's what I want you to do. We're going to stop our slideshow here. We're going to pick it up on Monday. Go ahead and put these cnotes in your binder behind your biology divider. And I'm going to go over with you your homework assignment. I'm going to give you about 1 minute to get settled before I give you your directions. So 1 minute, get things put away. Will you turn the lights on for me? Thank you. Are you guys getting it? Are you understanding it?
Yeah.
Good. Now, I need you back on me, seated, settled, and giving me your attention in 10, 9, 8, 7. Put it in the tray. Right here in our tray. Oh, right here in our tray. All right, eyes and ears on me. Necesito sus ojos y oídos porque esa tarea es muy importante en su vida. Okay. All right. These, it may be the first time you've seen this. These are called cnote strips. Hint, hint, wink, wink. Guys, these are Cornell notes without the note session. Okay? This front, you put a topic, an objective, and an EQ, and you put your questions. The back, you put your summary. There are no notes. It's just a question and a summary. Now, let me explain why. Your homework that you are getting today is due next Friday. This is an excerpt from the textbook over ecology. It is probably about 8 pages. Here's what I expect of you. You need to number your paragraphs. You need to mark your text. Circle important words, underline key ideas, or claims. You then need to chunk it. If you look at this reading, there are headings. FYI, they've kind of already chunked it for you with those headings. You just need to do it visually with a marker. You've then marked your text. Once you've marked your text, you come to your C-note strip. From your key concept and main ideas, you have to write your own EQ using Costa's levels of questioning. Not yet. You come up with your objective. I want 3 questions and a summary. Grab a C-note strip and a packet on your way out.